So there's an update to a case I actually covered, I think last time, a couple of years ago. It's been a while since I've covered this story, but there was an important update. And this issue started in 2017, and it involves Southwest Airlines. So in 2017, there was a flight attendant named Charlene Carter, and she was fired by Southwest. Why? Because she was posting these anti-abortion messages on Facebook. Like, she was sending emails to her union president, and she made social media posts about how much she hated her union president. Why? Because the union president attended the 2017 Women's March that year. And she wrote, like, "You truly are despicable in so many ways." And then she just kept sending emails to the point of harassment. The union president did not respond to these, but this woman just kept sending her those messages. And she accused the union president of murder for supporting abortion rights. And here's the thing. People are entitled to their personal views, right? But you're clearly violating the company policy regarding civility because you are harassing the union president. And also, in her public Facebook posts, I will show you this here. This is from a lawsuit. According to a Southwest letter, they did a fact-finding meeting. They said when Carter posted the videos and pictures on Facebook, she was identifiable as a Southwest Airlines employee. Like, she's wearing the uniform when she is doing all these videos and pictures. So, like, you may have really dumb, wild views about abortion, and this lady does, but, like, there's a difference between saying them in your private capacity and putting on your Southwest uniform and doing it, because now you are representing the company to the public. So that's why Southwest said, we need to fire you now. Like, among other things, there were pictures of her in uniform displaying her employee badge. And so here's the wild thing. She gets fired, and she says, they fired me because I'm Christian. Like, she made it sound like this was religious persecution, even though there was no evidence Southwest was punishing her for her faith. And so she filed a grievance with the union, and an arbitrator said, yeah, you weren't fired for your religion. So they sided with the airline. So then she sued Southwest and the union. And here's where it gets really weird, because this went to a jury trial, and the jury agreed with the woman that she was fired because of her religion. And I find that ridiculous, and I don't understand what the jury was thinking, but I was not privy to their conversations. But anyway, they said she should get her job back, that Southwest has to stop discriminating against employees on the basis of religion, and also the company has to notify all of its flight attendants about Title VII's prohibition on religious discrimination. Like, Southwest has to tell everybody, hey, everybody, the law says we can't discriminate against you on the basis of religion. And wait, it gets worse. They also said this flight attendant, Charlene Carter, she deserves $5.1 million in damages, including nearly $1 million from the union. I shit you not, that is how this went down. This is the CBS headline from 2022 about this story. Fired Southwest flight attendant wins $5.1 million verdict. I don't know. Everything's wrong with the world. It makes no sense. Now, that award was later lowered to like 800,000, but still, why is she getting anything? I don't understand what Southwest did wrong here. But here's where you got to go with this. The jury said Southwest was wrong, so that's what the courts have to work off of. They don't get to just undo the decision because they don't like what the jury said. So here's the thing. Last year, the religious discrimination angle was the focus of a court hearing, and this became a huge controversy because, like I told you, Southwest was supposed to tell its flight attendants that we cannot discriminate against you due to your religious beliefs, right? Like, that future tense is important. We cannot discriminate against you. We may not discriminate against you because of your faith. implying we will never do this again. But when the notice went out, that's not what happened. It said, the notice that Southwest sent to their flight attendants said, Southwest does not discriminate on the basis of religion. Does not discriminate. And depending on how you want to interpret that, they could have been saying, we don't currently do that, but who knows what we'll do in the future. We do not discriminate. Not we won't discriminate, but we do not currently discriminate. That's the implication. And they also did not mention Title VII in their notice like they were supposed to. So then the flight attendant is like, hey, judge, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So she went to the courts. And in August of 2023, a U.S. district judge named Brantley Starr, he issued a decision that was so insane. I want to make sure I'm reading this one correctly because I think here, check this out. This is what this judge said. It is hard to see how Southwest could have violated the notice requirement more. And then he offered examples of what he means. And he decided to cite the Bible and Lord of the Rings. So take these modified historical and movie anecdotes. What's the historical anecdote? Oh, the historical one is the Bible. After God told Adam, you must not eat from the tree, imagine if Adam told God, I do not eat from the tree in the middle of the garden while an apple core rests at his feet. I get the point he is making, but what the hell? Or where Gandalf bellows, you shall not pass, the Balrog muses, I do not pass, while strolling past Gandalf on the bridge of something. What the hell? Look at the citation at the very bottom. This guy's so proud of himself for working this into a decision. You know what I mean? I swear to God, conservative judges are the bane of my existence. Also, remember, he said the Bible is the historical example. So again, his point is, you guys should have said it this way, and I'm going to interpret you in the worst possible light to suggest that you are still going to discriminate against people in the future. So he held Southwest in contempt, saying they're not following my orders. And then he wrote out a draft of the new memo that Southwest had to send out to its employees. And then this judge said there is a chronic failure regarding federal protection for religious freedom. He's saying Southwest doesn't care about religious freedom. What did he say here? Check this out. Southwest needs to understand when communicating with its employees that federal protections for religious freedom override any company civility policy. So this flight attendant was harassing her union rep and calling her a murderer and sending endless stream of comments on Facebook. And she's like, I'm doing it because I'm Christian. And all the courts are like, well, all right, if that's the reason, then you can keep doing whatever it is you want to do. But here's the other part of this. At the very end of his ruling, that judge said this. I'm just skipping ahead through the boring beginning part. Oh, because Southwest's right to speak when implementing the court's injunction ensures a continued partnership in the future, and Southwest speech and actions toward employees demonstrate a chronic failure to understand the federal protections for religious freedom, the court concludes that training on religious freedom for 3 lawyers at Southwest, he said the 3 lawyers representing Southwest needed to go through special training for religious freedom. And then who's going to do that training? Look at this. The Alliance Defending Freedom has conducted such training in the past, and the court deems that appropriate here. The judge said you need to learn about religious freedom because you clearly don't know anything about it, lawyers. And by the way, there's a crazy ass right-wing group that does these sessions, and you should learn it from them. By the way, if you saw Last Week Tonight with John Oliver last Sunday, he did a whole long segment on Alliance Defending Freedom. Amazing segment, as all of his segments are. Go watch that if you haven't. Really quick, I reached out to ADF and I'm like, what'd you guys think of the John Oliver segment? Did you think any of it was incorrect? And so far, they've been radio silent on everything. I don't think they've mentioned it once. Anyway, this judge says go to the right-wing crazy group to learn about religious freedom, which is a wild, wild, dumb thing to say. And when he explained himself, this judge said, don't worry, you don't even have to pay a lot of money for the training, because all you got to do is pay enough money for one staffer from ADF to come to your headquarters in Dallas, Texas. That's not that big of a burden. You can pay for that. But why that group? They had nothing to do with this case. And Starr claimed that ADF is one of many esteemed nonprofit organizations that are dedicated to preserving free speech and religious freedom. And also, ADF offers these classes free of charge. So that's why he said you have to work with them. Nowhere did he explain why ADF and not a more credible organization like the ACLU or the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which can also train you in religious freedom, why couldn't they provide the training? Like, it was totally absurd. Chris Geithner, who writes about legal issues at his website, Law Dork, he summarized this at the time. ADF is not an unbiased educational institution, nor does it pretend to be. The only relevant training its website discusses in the training section is a legal academy connecting like-minded attorneys in an effort to show lawyers how to effectively advocate for religious liberty, free speech, the sanctity of life and marriage and family. Yeah, ADF wants to connect right-wing lawyers and help them connect with each other. They don't even say, yeah, we do religious training for outside groups. It's just not something they do. They are not neutral, though. This is not some third party, right? This is an organization that only sees religious freedom while wearing Jesus-tinted glasses. They believe sodomy should be illegal. They spread lies about gay people supporting pedophilia. They defend forced sterilization of trans people in Europe. Like, bigotry in the name of Christianity counts as religious freedom for ADF lawyers, even if there are non-discrimination laws in play. So their arguments, regardless of right-wing judges ruling in their favor, have been widely criticized by legal scholars. And the weirdest thing is that the lady who's been spearheading this whole lawsuit, the flight attendant who's batshit crazy in all this, she didn't even ask for this. The judge is just like, you know what? I got an idea for how I can punish you. Go to these people. Like, it wasn't until that ruling that the judge even suggested they conduct these sessions. So, like, what would an ADF religious freedom training look like? I don't know. There were no specifics given. Plus, their track record suggests they don't even know what religious freedom is. So it seems to be whatever conservative judges will let them get away with. Right? Anyway, last year, lawyers for Southwest appealed this decision, saying, first of all, we should not have to pay out $800,000 to this flight attendant because there was no religious persecution, right? For all the reasons I've already talked about. And also, they said the ADF, they were primarily focused on the money, right? Which makes sense. They didn't even bring up the religious training thing. But depending on how the court ruled, that was going to have an effect on the training session. The Freedom from Religion Foundation filed an amicus brief basically saying it is unprecedented for a court to force attorneys to attend training by an ideological advocacy organization that happens to be religious. A Bloomberg reporter explained the training might go away depending on how these judges rule. Who knows what was going to happen? The weirdest thing is ADF filed their own amicus brief saying, you guys, we could totally do this religious training session. We've been really good at winning First Amendment cases with the Supreme Court, never mentioning that the reason they win is because the Supreme Court is right-wing and partisan. But anyway, last June, almost a year ago, the appellate court, they decided to pause the judge's ruling from going into effect. So you don't have to get the training. You don't have to pay the money yet. You have to wait till we issue our ruling. So they just paused it. So nothing happened. But the reason I bring all this up now is because last week, where is the story? Was it last week? It was about a week ago. The appellate court finally issued its ruling on this case. It's been a year since they paused it. They finally issued their ruling on the case, and they said two things. They ruled unanimously that the judge, Brantley Starr, the guy who said you have to take training from ADF, yeah, he totally overstepped his bounds when he told you to do that. And this is the headline from Reuters. Southwest lawyers don't need religious liberty training. And according to the article, when a court's contempt sanction in a civil matter is both overbroad in scope and undoubtedly punitive in nature, the judiciary risks appearing contemptuous, which is a very long way of saying he had no right to tell you to take a right-wing training seminar, and it sounds biased and like you don't have to do that, which is the right decision on that front. So yay, they don't have to do that. They also reversed a specific finding that Southwest discriminated against this woman because of her religious beliefs. However, they did not undo the jury's decision or the $800,000 penalty. Like, they decided to let that go through for other reasons. So like the original bad decision by the jury stands, but the idiotic additional punishment by the judge is going away. So is it good news? I don't know, not really. It's ultimately a victory for this flight attendant who harassed everybody and caused all this chaos, even though Southwest appears on paper to have won this round. And the Trump judge who demanded the ADF training, he's not going to face any consequences for what he did. Just because it got reversed doesn't mean he can't try again. So it should never have gotten to this point. This woman was never fired for her religious faith. She was fired for being a really shitty employee. And the problem with professional victims like her is they can never admit they're the problem. And now she's going to get rewarded for it, even though Southwest won't have to take religious discrimination training sessions or anything like that. It's just such a wacky, wacky story. But that's your update on this one. And I think I'm done there. What questions do we have here? Is this in that bonkers federal district in North Texas? I think I know what you're talking about, the one with Matthew Kaczmarek. And no, it's not his district. It's a different one. It might be the same appellate court, though, the Fifth Circuit appellate court. Yeah, it's the same appellate court, but it's not the bonkers one. It's just a different bonkers Texas judge. You forgot to mention that the judge is the nephew of Ken Starr. Sorry about that. I think you're right there. Yeah, Brantley Starr is the nephew of Clinton prosecutor Ken Starr. I would 100% convert to Christianity for that amount of money. First of all, you'll have to get in front of me in line, because for $800,000, I have no principles. Imagine if Southwest lawyers were Muslim, Buddhist, or anything other than Christian. Honestly, I don't even know what religion the three lawyers are. How is this even remotely an ethical ruling? That's forced religious training. Yeah, and we don't know how religious their training would have been, even though they incorporate Christianity or God, their version of God, into everything they do. There were so many things wrong with what that judge demanded they do.